Welcome to Your Ag Empire. Today I'm sitting down with someone who knows a thing or two about leading with curiosity, community, and courage, Emily Reuschel. If you don't know Emily yet, you're in for a treat. She's a speaker, a retreat host, and the voice behind the Gather and Growth podcast, where she helps women in rural communities break free from their limiting beliefs and redefine success on their own terms. Emily and I have had the chance to connect in person. She led a workshop at the Empire Ag Elite Retreat. I've been to one of her retreats, and we're heading to Yellowstone soon this summer for another one. I can't wait. So today's conversation is an open, honest, and practical one about growth, leadership, and what it really takes to build a life that aligns with your values. So Emily, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored. And just the fact that I get to sit down with you for a little while in my afternoon delights me. So thank you.
Yes. I'm so excited for you to be here for this conversation. Let's see where it goes today. I guess let's just to start off, for those that don't know Emily, which if you don't, you should, can you tell our listeners about you and a little bit more about what you do and all the things?
That's like the best introduction. If you don't know her, you should. Like, pause this
Yeah,
episode right now, go find her, become her friend, send her a message.
that's true.
Yes to all of the above. Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Emily. I'm going to lead with the fact that we live on my husband's family farm in West Central Illinois. We grow about 1,500 acres of corn and soybeans. And I did not grow up in this life. I did what many people can identify with. I met a cute farmer and followed him here. And farms don't move, so people do. So we live in a very rural community. Our closest town, I put that in quotes, has
Mm-hmm.
42 people. And professionally, I started as an elementary school teacher. I thought I would teach fourth grade for the rest of my life in our small school district. And I have no doubt that if that's where my path would have led, I would have a full, beautiful life. But there has been many twists and turns along the way that is this interwoven story in both my professional life and my personal life. I've really built a business that is one and the same in a lot of ways. After the classroom, I had a stint in a local nonprofit, a YMCA, as a program director, and it was there that I really the moment that transformed my journey began. Not that there weren't several things that happened along the way, but after I brought my second child into the world and went back to work way too early, as so many of us have done, and was pumping 9 million times a day,
Yeah.
bleeding myself out for this job that I loved, I had this moment of realization of, okay, I have checked all of the boxes. I got married, I got the degree, I got the job, I got another job, I'm really
Yeah.
good at it. I have these two beautiful kids, we've bought farmland. Okay, like I should be happy. And that is a position that I see so many women, especially in. And we turn it inwards of like, why can't I just be grateful? And we sit in this place of really deep shame of, oh my gosh, I have everything I've ever wanted. So many people would love this life and I'm miserable. There must be something wrong with me. But it was in a very distinct moment that I'm like, no, like something has to be different than this. I'm coming home at the end of the day frustrated with my kids for even existing because I'm just so burnt out. I'm so frustrated. I'm putting myself so far on the back burner. I'm not even in the kitchen anymore. And so that led me through a health journey that for the first time in my life was rooted in how do I really love and take care of myself versus I'm just going to try to elliptical myself skinny.
Yeah.
I had my daughter in my arms thinking I would be devastated if she felt the way about herself that I feel about myself right now. And so that's the moment that changed everything, that brought me to this world of personal development and just trying to understand what does it look like to live where I live and also build a really big, beautiful life that I'm obsessed with.
Mm-hmm.
So often in these small towns and rural communities that we love, we're fed this narrative like, oh, if you want to do something big, you got to go to the city. You got to leave here. You got to get out of here. But I don't want that. I want my feral farm kids running around in the backyard. I want to be in and out of the tractor. Like I want to walk out my back patio and see corn. And it was at that point that I just had a lot of curiosity around, I cannot be the only person, woman, mom who is living in a town like this who's starting to think about these things. So I did what any sane person does during a pandemic, and I started an Instagram account called Raising Reuschel that was really just all about raising babies, raising our crops, raising animals, but also raising ourselves and each other. And that's really where it all began as a passion project that turned into me on a total leap of faith, leaving my full-time job that checked all the boxes and was so good on paper to leap into the unknown to build this business that, again, has evolved many times over the years, but ultimately where I get to work with women like Holly from all across this country and beyond and really walk through them in seasons of growth and transition and dismantle limiting beliefs and challenge expectations and belief systems and help them rewrite a life that feels as good as it looks, right? We're also
Yes.
good at sharing the little snapshots of our life on Facebook and Instagram that just make it all look like we have it all figured out, but are secretly struggling on the inside. And it is my just mission in this world to help guide women to really deeply know, love, and trust themselves as a means to transform our rural communities from the inside out.
Yeah. I love that. I love so many things that you said in there. I feel you've walked alongside me through some of my personal growth and development and changes and curiosity. And it's been interesting to get to know you and the communities that you've cultivated and created. And so it's just been, I don't know, just a wonderful experience. And I'm so thankful that you're doing what you're doing because it's made a huge impact on my life. And so I know that it is many others as well, but I guess to lean into your curiosity, I feel like that's been a buzzword that we've talked a lot about in some of the meetings and masterminds
Mm-hmm.
that you and I have done together. So let's talk about that a little bit. We talk about leading with curiosity,
Yeah.
empathy, love. Why do you think that those traits are important, especially where we live in these rural communities?
Yeah, that's really where I want to start. And honestly, long before that was part of my vernacular, I watched my husband do it in real time. He's a multi generation farmer and had just been hearing decades worth of this is just the way we've always done it.
Yeah. Yes.
Even had sat
Yeah.
in rooms with his friends. He was in an ag fraternity and everyone, well, I don't know. That's the way grandpa did it. So it must be the best way.
Right.
And so he went through his own journey of really challenging and pushing against that. And I think a lot more people are talking about regenerative ag practices now, but when we
Mhm.
moved back 8 years ago, that was like a relatively, I'm not saying it was new because there was
Right.
things that Andrew's grandpa did back in the 70s, 80s that were along the same lines, but my husband really approached everything with curiosity. And you can't copy and paste someone else's approach and assume it's going to work on your farm. You really got to get literally in
Yeah.
the weeds,
Sure.
in the soil, and get curious. Like, why is this not working? How could we improve this? Is that actually the best way? What if we tried this? And I watched him massively, epically fail and also like really start to see the fruits of his labor after many years. And it definitely helped spark this reasoning and okay, there is more than one way to do things. And just because someone before you did it a certain way, just because your mother-in-law did something a certain way, just because the farm did something a certain way, just because your neighbors do something a certain way, does not mean that it is the only right way. Or just
Yeah.
because you have ascribed to a belief or an idea or a thought pattern for a really long time does not mean that it's the only right way. A phrase that I use with my kids probably every single day is
Mhm.
like different people do different things in different ways, and that's okay. And so when we
Yes.
take this out to the broader scope of the world, we are all shaped in our worldview by our understanding of where we live, our family of origin, our neighbors, our churches, our schools, whatever. But that's our reality. And there's all of these millions of people in so many different places who are also living their realities. And it doesn't mean that we're right and they're wrong, or that
Right.
they're right and we're wrong. And so, this idea of curiosity and love and empathy, I know it sounds, oh, like, I don't know. I don't want to say woo. So often, even in agriculture, we get stuck in the this is right. No, this is wrong. No, this is
Mhm.
toxic. No, this is bad. And almost always the answer is somewhere in the middle and changes from year to year. And so the more we sit in these hard conversations and really practice the idea of hearing each other and trying to understand where someone else is coming from, Like the more we guide our informed understanding to make decisions and be open to trying new things. So often the fear of the unknown holds us captive in our mindsets
Mm-hmm.
or in the way that we do things or the way that we show up. And I see this in a big way in what the women I work with believe is possible for their life, because they just have this like absorbed reality that has been handed to them by people with good and bad intentions. And it's so hard to think about what's the opposite of it. And so sometimes it's just a matter of, wouldn't it be cool if? What else
Right.
could be true? What if I just give myself a little bit of curiosity to listen to this podcast that stretches outside my comfort zone, or reads this book, or sit down in a conversation with someone who, has a different perspective than me? And it doesn't mean that I have to completely 180 my life and adopt theirs, but like, when we lead with this curiosity of what could I learn from this person? What could I weave into my understanding of the world? It just opens us up to so much more richness and depthness in the way that we do things.
I think sometimes just even, I think the word curiosity, if we'll just take a minute to explore that, I think you spoke to even the women who get stuck in, I don't know if stuck in their ways is the right word, but I feel
Mhm.
like I probably lived there for a decade during that time of my professional life and early motherhood. It was just, I did the things, right? I know we've talked about this a lot, did
Mhm.
all the check marks, made the good grades, did the thing, got the good job, had the babies. And
Yep.
then I got the job, and I sat there, and it wasn't that it was bad, but I knew that there had to be something more.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it was over a decade later that it was finally like just finding you. It was like just opening up the box. It was like something I didn't even know existed, to a
Yeah.
world of other women that felt the same way I did. And it was
Mhm.
just like having a minute to explore. And I remember thinking at the time I was so in the doldrums of raising babies that it didn't even dawn on me to think about what did I need to make me even a better mom, or a better
Yeah.
professional, or a better wife, or entrepreneur, whatever that looked like and whatever that was going to take
Mhm.
me. So I love that. And I think hopefully, if nothing else, maybe someone can hear that, oh gosh, just take a minute to breathe and explore and be curious about whatever that is. Because I know for me
Mhm.
personally, just having that, I don't know, that moment, that break in time to explore and be curious, I think has
Yeah.
obviously totally diverted my professional pathway for sure. But
Mhm.
honestly, my whole life, just being able to have the flexibility to work at home with my kiddos and things like that more. I guess just leaning into that, how do you think embracing curiosity has helped you grow
Mm.
personally and professionally?
In so many ways, like it is not hard for me to imagine a reality where I am still teaching in that classroom.
Mhm.
And again, not saying that would have been bad. I would have a rich, beautiful life,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But the moment I had a defining moment, I was very unceremoniously scrolling Facebook in my parents' kitchen with the 4-month-old. My first was little, deep in like honestly postpartum rage and
Mm.
anxiety that I didn't even have language for. And I happened to see the job posting for the YMCA, and it was
Mhm.
for director of youth and family development, so overseeing like summer camp and after school and all that kind of stuff. And I had this full body lightning feeling of I need to do that. Like I am telling you, I never even assumed I would leave my job. I was not looking, I was not exploring, but it was like a intuitive, you need to do that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how. I have never even written a resume for anything other than a teaching job. I don't know how to work anywhere other than a school. I'd been a teacher for 5 years,
Mhm.
but I applied, interview, and got the job with the mindset of what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Mhm.
Okay, I do this and it's not what I expected. And then I go ask for my job back. I apply to a different school district. Okay, yeah, we're in the middle of nowhere, but there are other schools in other towns. Like it was very much in the experiment of what do I have to lose? And it was
I
really
think
good
you
timing.
shared
This
It's interesting. I think you shared with me at one time, because I think I looked at things with such permanence. And I think you shared with me, it's like the
yes.
average, and you might be able to spout off the statistic, but it's actually very normal for people to like, it's actually not even normal. It's almost sought after if you actually transition or pivot into different
Yes.
things.
I don't know that I would actually really love to know the statistic of people who are working in what they got a degree in, but we hold such weight to permanence, right? Because I think we were
Mhm.
raised by this generation that was like, work hard and get a job and then be there forever and then retire with the company. And that was good and fine. But that's not to the worker's advantage, especially in the bottom job market. Like, you are more likely to increase in pay, increase in job title, moving companies than you are trying to climb your own corporate ladder. And so anyway, I was at the Y for a few years and really loved it. Like, explosively just got thrown into learning like HR and accounting. And I am the marketing department because it's a small rural branch. And like, I'm creating programs from start to finish and figuring out how to manage employees, like all of these things. But again, I hit this like really heavy burnout because we hear like you can't pour from an empty cup. Like, actually you can, and women do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you have little kids
You're right.
and you're in like a
You
job
don't
that you are so
you
trying to
probably
prove
don't
yourself.
even you probably don't even know it. That's it. You're
Yeah.
you're that empty that you're just I don't know,
Yes.
like it's literally burning out.
Yeah. And I think the moment that you're referring to is one of my coworkers, who was a good friend at the time, said, I finally said out loud, I don't think I want to be here anymore. And it was like, it had taken me months to even physically say those words.
Say it.
And she was like, well, what are you going to do? Change jobs every 4 years? And she did not mean it as a compliment. And it was in that moment that I'm like, why not? Like, actually, what is so wrong about pursuing what feels fun in the moment? If my bills are paid and I'm having a good time and I'm making an doing impactful work in the world, like,
Why not?
great.
Who says I can't?
Evolve, move,
Yes.
change. And I know there may be some people listening who are in agriculture and on their family farms, and they're like, okay, that's great, but I'm never leaving the farm. Like, that is 100% the situation my husband's in. He's, I don't want
Mhm.
to do anything other than this. But the same thing applies in giving yourself permission to change the way you do things, or taking in new ideas, or reevaluating. Like, your relationship with the farm has been a really big thing for
Yes.
Andrew and I, especially him and his journey,
Mhm.
right? So many people say their priorities are faith, family, farm, but it's actually farm, 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 family,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was really important for him to define his worth outside
Mhm.
of the farm, to find his priorities outside of the farm. And not to say we don't give it all we got, but there is more to our life than just the farm.
Yeah.
That
I
was a
think
tangent I didn't think we'd gonna go down, but
that's
I
okay.
hope
I
that's
loved
okay.
it. I think we talk about exploring curiosity, even having a minute, doing the pivot, doing the thing, talking
Mhm.
about making the change. I think even personally where I got stuck was other people's opinions. One of the hardest parts of growth is others'
Yes.
opinions. And I think honestly, even though I had that spark of curiosity, kind of like what you did with the why article, scrolling Facebook with your baby, and especially in small rural towns, how do you approach that? How do you help lead women
Mhm.
navigate? Okay, I'm ready to make the change, but gosh, what are they going to say? What is that going to look?
Mm.
Yeah.
First of all, that is so common. Like, I think if I had to distill it down, that is one of the number one thing that holds everyone back from whatever they want to do, or what are they going to think? What are my parents going to think if I parent differently? What are my
Mm-hmm.
coworkers going to think if I leave this job? What's my husband going to think if I start this health regimen?
Mm-hmm.
What are the neighbors going to think if I start posting online? And part of it is so biologically normal, right? I think we have this cognitive dissonance where we just want to be like, their opinions don't matter. It's fine. I'm going to do what I want. But from a biological standpoint, we crave belonging. If you think about like early tribes of people, if you were excluded, you died. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
need to be together. So first of all, just know that like your craving for belonging is in your DNA. But like, your belonging does not have to be defined by these like arbitrary expectations that you feel like other people are imposing upon you. First of all, have they ever even said that? Second of all, would you trade lives with them? Because most of the time when we are getting criticism from someone or somewhere, it's because they're feeling deeply insecure that what you're doing is shining a light on their inadequacy or lack of courage to do whatever it is that they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they don't pay your bills, they don't live in your house, and they don't have to live with your regrets on whether or not you did something, that's where you have to cultivate the pro con list of, am I going to let these people who I would not trade lives with hold me back from what's possible? And that's where these communities that you and I have created, Holly, are so important, whether it's a mastermind, whether it's something like Empire Ag, whether it's going on a retreat. Because
Mhm.
when you insert yourself into situations with people who are modeling the kind of life you want to be living in whatever discipline, entrepreneurship, farming, parenthood, health, whatever, it recalibrates in your brain what is possible and normalizes this dream that someone else told you is impossible. If you
Mhm.
want to make more money, get yourself in a room with people who are making the kind of money you want to make. It's why CrossFit gyms are so successful, because you get in there and you are like full in the CrossFit coat. All of a sudden you're wearing the same shoes. You're on the same like eating plan. You're like going to all the workouts. It's because like you assimilate to this like new sense of belonging. And yeah, people might have something to say about what you do, but also most people are actually just so absorbed with their own self-consciousness that they don't care what you're doing. And if they are spending time caring what you're doing, ask yourself, like, what else do they have going for them? Am I actually going to let Joe Blow's opinion on this really cool thing that I'm going to do stop me from doing my really cool thing? Because those same people will turn around in 1 or 5 years and be like, how'd you do it? Like,
Yeah.
the number of people who openly told my husband he was actually crazy for the things that he was doing on his farm until he started seeing like radically different results, and who are like, oh, your field is like the only one that is not being affected by this drought. What
Mhm.
did you do? He's, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, remember 5 years ago when you told me I was crazy? I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yes.
so there's like this understanding where this attachment and belonging is coming from, and also making the choice to do it scared. You will never feel
Yeah.
100% ready.
Yeah.
Never.
I think I don't know, for me, I felt like I was alone in my thought process for so long, like in that exploring curiosity, trying to make a pivot and changing. And I think what you spoke to about finding community and like-minded
Mm.
and a way to, I don't know, be able to share that too also helped. It's like kind of that the like-mindedness and making the
Yeah.
change. And I don't know, just if you don't have the courage, borrow someone's. Isn't that, I think,
Yes.
and so,
Yes.
I think being a part of the communities that you've cultivated, hopefully, and the ones that like we've created here at Empire Ag, people can feel that it's maybe I'm stuck or I need help making a decision. And I don't know.
Mhm.
I think we talk about that a lot. If I don't have the courage, I'm gonna lean on someone else's today, right, to
Yeah.
help step into that next step. And so, I think I was a born people pleaser, and so that was honestly one of the hardest things I had to overcome. But at the end of the day, it was like, what's best for me and my family. And at the time, it was
Mhm.
making a pivot, and I think we talked through it may not be forever. It might just be temporary, but we're going to
Yeah.
see where it goes from here. I think God's leading us here, and let's see where this takes us.
Yeah. That's the thing. When you get really honed in on what is true for you and your family, it's, am I going to continue living my life based on someone else's checklist, or am I going to write my own?
Right.
Right? Because left to our own devices, like, it's really easy to just follow what anyone else wants us to do, because it's fundamentally more simple than using our brain
Yeah.
and like doing hard things.
It's I felt like I've even let it creep into the simplest, smallest decisions, like going to Yellowstone in August. I am so
Mhm.
pumped about that. I'm turning 40 this summer, which maybe I shouldn't
No
admit
way.
that out loud, but I'm actually excited. It's interesting. I feel like I've embraced this season of I've lived
Mhm.
a lot of life, and I feel like I have anyway a lot to share and still a lot to live. And it's interesting how some of those old thought processes will creep back in. It's like,
Mhm.
why should she go on that? Why should she go on that trip?
Mhm.
Like, why should she do the thing? And I'm like, because I've cultivated and created a life that's allowing me to go and
Mhm.
do the things and still take care of the things I need to take care of and show my
Yeah.
kids that they can do the same too.
And it's flexing a muscle, right? Anytime
Right.
you do something for the first time, it feels scary. And then
Right.
it just gets easier and easier. And so the more you trust yourself with the small decisions, the more like the bigger ones, you just move through that faster and you don't absorb other people's stuff as much. And I love that you bring up this example of, what are you showing your kids? Because like at the end of the day, when they're grown up, like they don't want to look back and be like, oh my gosh, my mom was just like so burnt out. And this was a badge of honor that we placed on women for so long of, oh, she gave everything to everyone. She was
Yes.
like so selfless. And what I see is, oh, she had needs and desires and wants and didn't feel like she could voice them, and she lived her life for other people. And don't
Yes.
get me wrong, like I am generous. I am kind to every person I meet. Like I will do so much for my family, but I will not bleed out at the expense of my physical, mental, and emotional health. And I want my kids to see that because they won't believe the things we say about them. They will believe in themselves the way that we believe in ourselves and the way
Yes.
that we take care of ourselves and the way that
Yes.
we move through the world.
Yeah. And it's interesting how simple that comment is, but I think it's so hard to put into action. I think
Mhm.
I have two daughters and a son, but my two daughters specifically, I think they're, as far as their self confidence, self worth, will be more hopefully as a reflection as an adult on my actions towards even
Mhm.
myself more so than what I just tell them to do. And I don't know,
Mhm.
I just love that in terms of just the mindset switch of yes, taking care of myself even as an adult, and I don't know, so that we can stay present with them
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
lead them hopefully into a better future.
Mhm. Yeah.
Let's see. How do you balance chasing big dreams while staying present with your family? Ooh, I love this one.
Ooh, okay, this is a really good one. And I think the answer for it comes on the other side of, I don't want to say doing it wrong, but in doing it in ways that did not feel good in
Yes.
other seasons of life. I didn't have kids at the time, but when I was a teacher, it was not uncommon for me to be at school until midnight.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it
I
is
was
crazy.
not getting paid enough for that. And then when I was in my nonprofit job, like I had a little bit better of a balance. I at least had a boss who really embraced flexibility. So if I was there on wacky hours, I could take time off, and that was great. But still, it was like work was my priority, if I'm being honest. Like I
Hmm.
just really wanted to do a good job and I really cared about what I did. And so when I jumped into this world of entrepreneurship, I was like, we are
Hmm.
not doing that again.
Yes.
And different people will do it different ways. But I hold pretty strong boundaries on working while my kids are gone when they're at school, which really got thrown for a loop when I brought the baby into the world unexpectedly
Yes.
and had to navigate that situation. I get questions pretty often on like how I don't feel guilty that I travel for work,
Mm.
which is funny because people don't ask my husband that question when he's in the
Right.
field.
Yes. Hmm.
Like, oh, how do you be a good dad and a farmer?
Yeah.
That sounds crazy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so for me and our family and what this looks like now, I know that sometimes I travel for work and it's not, there are seasons that are crazier than other because I say yes to speaking engagements that are in my husband's off seasons. So there's a little
Hmm.
bit of trade-off there.
Yes.
So typically winter's a little bit busier and then sometimes like early fall before harvest is a little busier. But I can be gone for 24, 48 hours and make good money. And then I
Hmm.
can come home and be really present. Like I can get my kids off the bus. Or this week, my daughter's been fighting a 103 fever, and I just didn't work two
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to be really intentional in explaining that to my kids because obviously it is hard when either parent is gone for whatever reason. And so I have to say, I'm going to go, and this is why it's really important to me. And I really love it. And these are the people I get to meet, and these are the messages I get to share. And this is why it's so special that I get to do this. And here's how it financially provides for our family.
Yeah.
And when I come home, this is how I'm able to show up for you in a way that I would not be able to if I was working any other job.
Yeah.
And so it's like kind of that reframe. And we do honestly, we do the same thing when Andrew's in the field. Like I said, he has much healthier boundaries around what work and farming looks like. And so if it's not planting and harvest, chances are 9 times out of 10, he's home for dinner. Unless like last night, a tractor was stuck in a ditch. Like, why are we even in the field? What's going on here?
Yeah.
But we have the same kind of conversations. My kids understand the rhythm of what planting looks like, what harvest looks like, why it's important, why they have to be in the field really late, why dad's not home, and what this lifestyle looks like the rest of the year. And that he has so much flexibility in other times. And that like we get to live on the farm and go on tractor rides and do the things that we do because of this. And so for Andrew and I, it's really looked like getting clear on what our priorities are
Hmm.
and what the give and take looks like for us. And really pouring into our kids and our families when we are present, and then being able to go and do the things that we need and want to do that really fill us up. So then we come home, we're like even more fulfilled than we were before.
Yeah, I love what you said there. I think my next question was going to be like, how have you brought your partner alongside you? But it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like he sparked maybe some of your initial curiosity, but then you even ended
Mm-hmm.
there with saying that collectively
Yeah.
you have made some intentional decisions together in the journey.
Mhm.
It's not just Emily's journey and it's not just his journey, it's together
Yeah.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that was really good for our marriage when I was working at the Y, I was in charge of summer camp, which may
Mhm.
as well have been like harvest. It was like 12 weeks,
Mm.
100 plus kids, 15 staff, childcare from 7 to 5 every day. And
Mhm.
then me also being there super late to get stuff ready for the field trip the next day. And it was like, I got the perspective of what it looks like to like
Mhm.
really not be like, not feel like you can leave work because
Yeah.
someone needs something done for the next morning. And
Yeah.
he got the perspective of what it feels like to be at home with the kids, doing everything all evening with a baby and a toddler and doing bath time and bedtime without me home, knowing that I could not leave work. So it was
Mm.
like a total role reversal
Yes.
compared to the years of him farming and me just like being so resentful that he was never home. So it
Mhm.
gave us both really good perspective and also both really good perspective on like where our priorities were and like left to our own devices. This is true whether you're a farmer or a lawyer or a teacher or an influencer or whatever. The to-do list never ends. Like if you're not intentional about it, you could just make the world's longest to-do list and every single day, no matter how many things you check off, it'll never be enough and you never can stop working. And of course you can't go home because God forbid you have to do this one thing before tomorrow. But
Yeah.
like most of the time, that is actually just something you made up in your head. Give
Like,
yourself the time and then when time is up, you're done. And so that's been really helpful to like also recalibrate where do we want to be spending our time and energy. And for me, and also for him, like I did a lot of work in therapy around untangling the addictions that I didn't know I had to approval and achievement. And I
mhm.
see this a lot in farmers too. They have so much of their worth tied up in the success of the farm that, of course, we were told like work harder, if you work longer, if you're not working hard enough you're lazy. There's so much of that ingrained in like subsect of society that
Mhm.
they wear that, and then when things don't go well they think it's a moral failing on their part and they didn't work harder, they didn't work hard enough,
Hard
so they got
enough.
to give
So
more and more. And you and John have been so proactive in talking about what mental health looks like in agriculture, and I think this is a really big part of the conversation. The farm is so special to us and we're so honored to carry on the legacy, but we cannot do that if we don't have a relationship with our kids and we do not have our mental health or our physical health along the way, because there's a direct correlation there
yeah. I
between your go ahead.
Okay. I know that we've talked a lot about that. In fact, and I said I feel like everyone that comes out of Emily's masterminds probably ends up with a therapist, and it's like Emily's going to tell you go find one. And I know that you prompted me to rekindle a relationship with my own, and
Mhm.
it's just been really good. But I think it is a topic that maybe is still not even talked about enough. I feel like it's coming out more and more, but I think it's just so important that we spend the
Mhm.
time to address that and work on that. And I feel like the mental muscle is just as important as the physical muscle, and
Yeah.
especially when you go to talk about what the farming day to day looks like for anyone,
Mhm.
men, women, the family, all
Yeah.
the things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think now more than ever, we're starting to realize, which, like, when I say this out loud, it's going to sound so obvious, but like the connection our mental health has to our physical health. Like,
Right. Yeah.
when we do not deal with our stress or our emotions or our disappointment or our anxiety, it manifests in our body. And so we get
Yes.
all these different kinds of aches and pains and cardiac situations and like just random stuff that goes on. And it is all like the body keeps the score. That's an incredible, very science heavy, but incredible book for just understanding the concept of why talking about our mental health is so important. And that is a conversation that has for sure expanded in the ag community over the past 2 years. If we want to see our operations reach the next generation in this day and age, like we have to be willing and adaptable to be having these conversations.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Agree. I don't know. I don't know. Emily, I think potentially we could wrap up there. Do you have anything else?
Oh, I have many other
I know.
things.
And I really do too. I could really talk to you about all the things. I really like that you brought up that there at the end, because that's been a passion project of mine lately, is just
Mhm.
like health as a full person, but specifically even my own self, physical health, and which has deeply tied into my mental and emotional well-being. So anyway, that's a passion project of mine and something I'm pursuing and hope to obviously bring to the world
Yeah.
one of these days. But
Yeah,
um
and it's all connected. And I know you feel strongly about this too, is like there's so much gray area in this. When we're
Mm.
talking about mental health, I think like a lot of times we want to be like, oh, my life wasn't that traumatic. Like it's not that bad. I can do it. I can white knuckle it. It's like no, literally every person in the world would benefit from having someone to talk to. And whether it's a therapist or a coach or a mastermind or a
Mhm.
good friend down the street, but just like actually having a place to hold that is so powerful. And we're at this interesting intersection where so many different pieces
Mhm.
of our society are being questioned, whether it's like the medical system, the pharmaceuticals, agriculture, and what role do these all play together? And so I think this just ties in this whole aspect of curiosity and being able
Yes.
to ask questions and add nuance and sit in the discomfort of the unknown and be okay with not always being right, much less having all of the answers.
Yes. I know you and I have talked about this a lot, but just this curiosity and I know we're circling back to what you said there at the beginning, but it's not that always one side's right and one side's wrong. Maybe somewhere in the middle is where we can find our common ground and
Mhm.
just the opportunity and chances to discuss those things and talk about them. I don't know. I'm really excited about hopefully where things are headed and I don't know, just more people being open to the idea of being curious around some of
Mhm.
these topics and things. Emily, where can people find you, connect with you, learn more about all the incredible work that you're doing?
All the good things. So
Yeah.
I'm most active online on Instagram at Emily Reuschel, Emilyreuschel. My website is emilyreuschel.com. It's currently under construction, and I'm very excited for
Oh,
the new reveal. I know, it's been
yeah.
great. And my podcast is called Gather in Growth, where you can hear me yap on all of this and so much more.
Yes. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining us today. I
Yep.
really enjoyed chatting with you. Thank you all for tuning into Your Ag Empire. If you've enjoyed this conversation, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode. And we will see you next time.
Bye.